Edwin Gray's power system. The power tube presented to the public by Edwin Gray SNR operates by generating a series of very short, very sharp pulses using a spark gap. This device is reputed to have a power output which is 100 times that of the power input. Ed Gray and his electric pulse motor are very famous, but as far as I am aware, nobody has successfully replicated this claimed performance. Further, an in-depth examination of the background details by Mr. Mark McKay have turned up a number of facts which present a very different picture, and while it is perfectly correct to say that spark gap pulses generate a good waveform for shocking the local zero-point energy field into the sort of imbalance which can provide a massive power inflow into a device or circuit, we need to be careful to get the full facts in this case. First, let us put the whole thing in its proper perspective. In May 1973, Caltech in the US performed an independent assessment of an engine provided to them by Edwin Gray. They measured the input and the output and certified that the output power was 275 times greater than the input power. This demonstrates clearly that excess power can be drawn into an engine and provide a performance which can power both the engine as well as doing additional useful work. Having said that, it needs to be made clear that Edwin Gray did not build that small motor, did not understand how it worked, nor did he ever disclose the design in any of the patents which he obtained afterwards. We need to follow the sequence of events and notice when each thing happened. The history is as follows. In 1957, a Russian immigrant to the USA, one Alexei Popov, showed Edwin Gray a circuit which he said that he had been shown by Nikola Tesla. Edwin Gray did not understand the circuit and had no idea how to create anything useful based on it. He then joined up with his next-door neighbor Marvin Cole, who held a master's degree in mechanical engineering and who, unlike Gray, was able to understand the circuitry. In 1958, Ed Gray left the Los Angeles area in a hurry. From 1958 to 1967, Marvin Cole, working alone, designed and built ever more powerful prototype engines, and it was a small one of these which was tested by Caltech. In this period, Marvin also developed ever more powerful power supplies, which are the really important item in all of this. In 1967, Ed Gray rejoins Marvin Cole, and together from 1967 to 1972 they solicited venture capital and promoted the technology. Early in 1972, Marvin Cole disappeared and never saw Gray again. It is not clear if he was intimidated, died, or just did not want to be involved in all the publicity and effort needed to turn the prototype engines into a commercial product. No matter what the reason, the result was that Edwin Gray was suddenly disconnected from the brains behind the project, and that left him in a very difficult position. He didn't want to let go of the dream of becoming rich through this spectacular development, and so he tried to continue the development on his own. As already mentioned, in May of the following year, 1973, Gray had a small Marvin Cole motor independently third-party tested at the famous Caltech laboratory in Los Angeles, where a measured input of just 27 watts produced a measured output of 10 horsepower, 7460 watts. The objective was to provide solid evidence of a new technology which was capable of changing the world and so would attract investors. To further boost his image and convince potential investors, in that same year of 1973, Edwin staged demonstrations which jumped electromagnets up into the air, showing the strength of the power which drove the Marvin Cole engines. It is very important to understand that all of Edwin Gray's patents were applied for after the departure of Marvin Cole. These do not disclose the technology tested by Caltech, and it must be understood that Edwin was very much afraid of revealing anything important in any of the patents in case some other person would understand the things which were a mystery to him and snatch away the prize of commercial success. Try watching Peter Lindemann's informative video at http://www.youtube.com/. For considerable additional information. Marvin Cole's power system produced cold electricity which could power lights and other devices. It was frequently demonstrated that the output was not conventional electricity and powered light bulbs which were placed under water, and at the same time, it was quite safe for a hand to be put into that same water along with the lit bulb. The glass of the conventional bulbs used in these demonstrations would have shattered when placed under water if they had been powered by conventional hot electricity, as the sudden change in temperature would have broken the glass. Powered as they were by cold electricity, they ran cool, and so there was no stress on the glass when submerged in water. Peter Lindemann points out that Ed Gray's power conversion tube circuit is effectively a copy of Nikola Tesla's circuit for doing the same thing. High voltage. Magnetically quenched spark gap. Loads powered by radiant energy. This was disclosed by Tesla in his Philadelphia and St. Louis lecture in 1893 and shows how loads can be powered when a high voltage source is pulsed by a magnetically quenched sparks. This creates DC pulses of very short duration. Magnetic field. Radiant energy wave. The diagram above illustrates the difference between the magnetic field generated around a conductor fed with a pulse of direct current and the radiant energy waves created by that pulse. If a sharp current pulse is driven down a vertical wire, it causes two different types of field. The first field is magnetic, where the lines of magnetic force rotate around the wire. These lines are horizontal, and rotate clockwise when viewed from above. The magnetic field remains as long as the current flows down the wire. The second field is the radiant energy wave. This wave will only occur if the current pulse is in one direction, i.e. it will not occur if the wire is fed with alternating current. The wave radiates out horizontally from the vertical wire in every direction in the form of a shock wave. It is a one-off event and does not repeat if the current in the wire is maintained. The radiant energy briefly unbalances the zero-point energy field, and that causes an energy flow as the field moves back into equilibrium again. The radiant energy wave is not restricted to a single plane as shown in the diagram above, which is intended to indicate the difference between the electromagnetic field circling around the wire, and the radiant energy field which radiates away from the wire. Both of these fields occur at all points along the full length of the wire as shown here. Radiant energy fans out in every direction. Radiant energy, when converted to electrical power, produces a different kind of electrical power to that produced by batteries and by the main supply. Power a motor with conventional electricity and it gets hot under load. Power the same motor by radiant energy electricity and under load the motor gets cold. Really overload it by stalling it and the motor housing is likely to be covered with frost. That is why this form of electricity is referred to as cold electricity. In his book Cold War Secrets, HAARP and Beyond, Gary Vasilatos quotes research work done in this area by Tesla and others.